started. Welcome everyone. Glad to see everyone back in here. Hopefully safe and sound. All family, hopefully friends are doing all right through the hurricane. At the end, we're going to talk about whether or not.
This works. You just can't move it.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me now?
You're shaking and you can't move.
Hello. Can you hear me now? Yeah. All right. I don't think this is working, but anyway, I'm just going to shout, and we're just not going to worry about it. At the end, we're going to talk about the hurricane and what maybe we collectively as 1 Million Cup community can do, particularly with our, what I would say, our startup cousins down in Wilmington. Jim's going to speak to that a little bit later, but I'm just glad to see everybody back in one piece. So with that, we have Ben Comstock this morning, who is originally kind of from Raleigh, thought of the idea, and then left for some reason to go start his company elsewhere. Give him a hard time. We needed that. So, all right. He happened to be visiting. He's got impeccable timing because he planned his visit just in time for the hurricane. So we snared him to say, hey, come, present your company while you're here. So with that, I will let Ben tell us about the launch of his company and his near sign with Stanford, and to be signed in coming days, I think, signing on a couple of new clients. So welcome back to the area, and when you expand, we expect, something here.
Right? You know it, absolutely.
All right, right, you're on
it.
All right, welcome, Ben.
Appreciate it. Well, thanks everyone for having me. My name is Ben. I'm co-founder of OfficeAccord. We are a company based out of Oregon. My connection to Raleigh is my father is right there in the back. He lives here in Cary, so I do come back very often. And in fact, when I had the idea to start OfficeAccord, I moved here from Spain, where I was living at the time, to go live in his spare bedroom and start the company. So that is my connection to Raleigh, why I find it very close to my heart. It's always going to be very close to my heart. So I'm here to talk to you today about how to use technology to enhance the employee experience. Before I do that, let me ask a question. Who here thinks that happy employees are more effective than unhappy employees? Yeah, awesome. Why is that?
One thing, they don't leave.
They don't leave, absolutely. They're more loyal. What else?
Lack of stress.
Lack of stress, exactly. Lack of stress. Good.
More engaged.
They're more engaged, absolutely.
The team effect takes place where everybody views themselves as part of a team instead of isolated political insurgents, and they're actually working together instead of trying to cut each other's throats or careers.
Absolutely. So working towards a common mission, working together. Excellent. Anything from this side of the room?
More apt to overcome challenges.
Yes, absolutely. Teamwork to overcome challenges. Fantastic. So how do we create happy employees? Well, we pay them a lot of money, we give them vacation days whenever they want, and we give them free food, right? Voila. Those are very important in their own respects, but they don't really cut to the core of what I think sits at the core of human of happiness, which is human connections. And that's what we are doing at OfficeAccord. Our mission is to create human connections that will lead to a more productive workplace. We really believe this is important for all the reasons we just stated here. They're happier, employees end up being happier, they're more productive, and then they stay longer. The challenge or the problem that we see, and the problem that OfficeAccord is trying to solve, is that for mid to large sized organizations, employees are using business communication tools, email, Slack, Yammer, to socialize. And this is creating a lot of clutter, a lot of inefficiencies in communication, and quite honestly, it can be quite annoying. Who knows what I'm talking about when employees use your business communication channels for non-business use, right? Really important to build that community, create a sense of teamwork, make employees happier, but we need to find a more effective way to do that. And that's what we do at OfficeAccord. What we've done is we've taken some of the sharing economy tools and brought them all into one employee experience app. This is going to do two things. This is going to make your business communication channels more effective at running the business by removing those non-core business communications out of those tools, out of your Slack, out of your email, and placing them into a more effective space where employees can appropriately communicate and socialize without bothering the entire company. Again, this is for mid to large size companies, so you can imagine this problem on a grand scale in some of the large corporations of today. Really important, we are not replacing your internal communication tools, we're just decluttering them. Yeah. So how does it work? Well, imagine you get up in the morning, you're having your cup of coffee, you open your custom branded web app, branded for your company, and it sends you straight to a news feed. This news feed is a quick view of everything that's going on in your office community. You can answer straight from here the survey that your HR team would like you to fill out. You can see the bike that John from accounting is trying to sell. You can participate find events that your colleagues have posted, or even participate in conversations where they've asked a question or are looking for answers. So we provide various modules, some of which are more social in kind, and others are more kind of from the administration's perspective to communicate better to their employees. So we have an employee marketplace. We provide an event board, and these are events that employees can also post their own. So there's many times when an employee will come to the HR department and say, hey, I know about a 5K run in the area. Would you please put this in the company newsletter? Well, that may not be company newsletter worthy, but why don't you go ahead and put it on your OfficeAccord site, and so that your employees can know about that opportunity. Ride sharing as well. I think we all need to be more cognizant of the carbon footprint that we're leaving, and as a company, how can we reduce that? Housing in many urban areas, housing is a nightmare. We work with Harvard University, and finding housing in Cambridge is just that, a nightmare. So this is actually the second most used module that they have, that they use here. Surveys, as I mentioned, an opportunity for the company to create anonymous surveys, post them, and get that feedback from their colleagues. So employee pulse checks, all the way down to, hey, what kind of food would you like to see in the cafeteria? And we also have a conversations board. So if we're going to take out some of those non-business conversations out of Slack, out of Yammer, and put them into a more effective conversation board, this is the way to do it. We are first to market. This is a tool. We are first to market as an all-in-one employee experience tool. We have the integrations that companies expect. We are mobile accessible, which is obviously the future of communication, and it's required less than 2 hours a month of overhead, according to our largest client, Harvard University. Where do we stand from a competitive perspective? When you look at the affordability versus all comprehensive, we actually sit as really the leaders in this space. I think a lot of people think that they can just use Slack, Facebook to have these social conversations, but again, mid to large size companies are finding that it's really detracting from those tools' ability to run their business effectively. We work on a SaaS pricing model. This is a monthly subscription base. It's $1 per user per month. We do have enterprise level license that we sell for companies that are over 3,000 employees. There's a massive market opportunity here. If you look at if we were to capture just 10% of our market size, which includes universities, great places to work, who are companies that have already kind of demonstrated how progressive they are in mind, enterprise level companies that fit our market, our target market, and apartment complexes as well, spaces where there's lots of community building necessary. Well, just by capturing 10% of that market size, there is the potential for $600 million yearly revenue. As I mentioned, we were founded in Oregon. Our current clients are Harvard University and Northwestern Mutual. We do have some pending negotiations with Stanford, Yale, Red Hat. So do look forward to seeing how those will evolve. We've been mentioned in the news in Forbes as the next step after Slack. You can check us out there. We've also been HR Tech Outlook. we are a virtual team of 4, and we're led by Michael Nolan, who is a founder of AMS Collaborator, which is a software he developed back in 2001. It's being used by over 150,000 lawyers worldwide. He is my CTO, my number 1. Really excited to be working with him, not just because of his technical capabilities, but also, if you couldn't tell, we're actually cousins. So it's always fun to collaborate with him. So what we're looking for? Well, we are looking for partnership opportunities in new verticals. We're offering free 90-day trials for companies that have at least 200 employees, are in some of these industries: advertising, insurance, medical, factories, call centers, and those companies that have a real desire to become a great place to work. So if you know of anybody that might fit this profile, if you would be so kind as to send this information to them, I'd greatly appreciate it. Well, that concludes the presentation. I'll open it up for questions.
I think we're going to attempt to use the cue ball.
Go ahead and get started. And then
So we'll toss it your way, hopefully. So I think the first question was over here that I saw. All right, go ahead.
Probably a dumb question. This makes me think of sort of behind the firewall, private label Craigslist. Is that?
Yep. So, yeah, absolutely. So the question was, for those that didn't hear, the question was, this is a kind of a online Craigslist, but behind the firewall for companies, correct? That's exactly what this is. This is a tool that is securely secured for the company itself. We use secure authentication so that only employees of that company can access. It's really trying to create that community, which I notice is also building communities here is the motto here at 1 Million Cups. It's that concept to do that. Yes, we'll sit behind the firewall and make this all secure.
So what are you thinking about, if that is the case, what are you thinking about, or how are you thinking to build barriers to penetration by, some guy at Google or Craigslist that wakes up one day and goes, I'm going to take a flyer at this and leverage my existing.
Yeah, leverage their own. Yeah, absolutely. So could companies do this? They could, absolutely. What we're finding, and in fact, let me go back to this slide. So these are the competitors in our market space. And so, first of all, tools built in-house. There are organizations that have just decided that their IT team is going to be responsible for building something like this. That's extremely expensive, and they're typically really one-dimensional. Facebook for Workplace by Facebook. I don't know how many have heard of that, but that is a tool that Facebook created to try and do some of this same kind of thing. You can read articles about it, so this is not my opinion. It hasn't really been very successful, and I think it's because the principles of social networks and collaborative teams are not one and the same. People don't want to use their Facebook or the connotation it has in their workspace. So, could Google go off and do this? Google could go off and do pretty much everything, but what we've identified is that there's nobody really in this space doing it. We are first to market. I think that we have over 18 months of headway on anybody that wants to enter the market. So that's really where I think some of our protected.
That's your exit strategy. That's your exit right there.
Pardon?
For somebody like Microsoft or Google,
Yeah.
that's your exit. I mean,
And we developed this tool on Microsoft's .NET technology for that purpose. So we can actually we integrate very well with SharePoints, with what's going to be Microsoft Teams. And so that really is the idea for us in the future, hopefully, to do more integration.
Okay, cue ball's up and running, so
Yeah.
we'll toss this
Ball,
around.
and then you got to throw it all
And the trick is not to shake, then it turns off. So be still. Be loud. All right, so are you, I'm guessing you're next.
Right, that was signed up.
this guy's always a
There it
catch.
is.
Speaking.
Do this. Hey, look at that. All right. I just wanted to speak into the ball. I'm good. So first of all, thanks for presenting 20 years in human resources. So it's really exciting to see all of this come together in a tool. A very compelling argument. I want to go back to where you started with happiness and what leads to happiness is connections. You showed a couple of clients. Curious to know how long you've been in those organizations and what kind of results are you seeing?
Excellent. So we've been with Harvard University for over 2 years. We have Northwestern Mutual is a company we just signed, and we did other pilot. We have some pilot programs that are going to be coming up soon as well. So that's the timeline in which we're working with. Harvard has been very satisfied. They have about 15,000 employees. 8,000 are actively utilizing this tool, and that's really probably the best example that I can give you from a population standpoint. So how it's been helping their happiness levels, we haven't been able to really gauge that. We added the survey module not too long ago, and so we really hope that in the future, what we can do is we can actually start getting some real metrics by starting with the employee satisfaction survey when we start, and then trying to measure that every 6 months, let's say. Sending the same satisfaction survey. Hey, does this tool help you feel more connected to your colleagues? Does it make you happier to know that your organization is demonstrating their interest in your personal life, not just you as an employee? So I hope that answers the question as it relates to the metrics in which we will hopefully be able to be acquiring. At this time, we don't have any solid happiness metrics to offer.
Okay, thanks.
So I kind of have two questions. So you're coming at this as a productivity tool to clean up other channels for the purposes that they were intended, but you're not removing people screwing around at work, which is basically what a human resources person is going to be concerned about, or the boss, because it's all about how much I'm paying you. 100 grand, 150 grand a year, I want my money's worth. I don't want you doing personal stuff at the office. So there's this work-life balance issue. Is that how you are couching this? Because you're not taking the activity out, you're just putting it in a different bucket.
Right.
So you're still allowing this to happen. So how are you positioning that, when you're pitching this?
Right.
Because it's not necessarily saving time, you're just reorganizing people's time so that they're. Now, the second part of this, and these could be part and parcel of one another, to me, this reeks of, I would be selling this to anybody who does workplace strategy consulting and have them white label this. Because they're going to be the ones who are going to be in having these conversations with people who are ready to write checks. They've already gotten past that hump. You trying to go pitch this, especially to an IT person, which is where inevitably you're going to get sent. It's going to be a black hole, because now all of a sudden, especially if they built the tools in-house, they're not going to want, it's a conflict of interest.
Make buying decisions.
So I think that, you could do yourself a great service if you did it that way, but you're presenting this, you're also going to have to show, it's like, what's that balance? How are you like, it's employee happiness, but really at the end of the day, it's about work, it's a work-life balance.
Sure.
So I don't know if that.
Yeah. No, I hope I followed you. Let me answer, and then you can tell me if I.
You want the ball back?
Yeah. Okay.
You can toss him the ball.
Ball, the bouncing
Yeah,
ball.
DL.
Yeah.
Where does it go?
Well,
matter.
let me
Just
just
go
take
for it.
that question in a few parts then. So the first statement he made was regarding productivity. Are we actually reducing the time in which people are taking to do some of these things? Who here has had personal conversations with colleagues in their office? Yeah, right. Everybody, right? So people are already doing these things, right? You go to work and you say, hey, wow, I need to find a babysitter this weekend for my kids. Do you know of anybody that can help? I'm trying to sell my bike. Do you know of anybody? People are already doing this. How are they doing this today? They're posting it on a big comment board, a Slack chat, let's call it. Yeah, they post that, and then all of a sudden everyone starts feeding into this. Yeah, oh, hey, I like that bike. What color is it? Is it green? Is it off green? What is it? And all of a sudden you're now asking everybody to follow this endless comment thread. That's time wasted. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give people a more effective way to do the things that they're already doing, but that's gonna, in a way that's gonna save them time. And so thankfully I've had the experiences where companies have said to us, yeah, we get that people are going to be doing this. We need to respect that. We want them to connect and we want to demonstrate it, but we want them to do it the most effective way. So actually, I would argue that we are saving time, and that is part of the ROI here. People are going to do this anyway, well, let's make sure they do it in the most efficient way. The second question you mentioned was, is this a white label product? Is that what?
No, I'm saying is workplace strategy consultants. You know, that's a huge business that's certainly on the rise, and more people are getting into that, particularly in the commercial real estate world. You know, where there's sub-services of brokerage firms like a CBRE or a South Studley or somebody like that. So to me, this would be a great white label for people like that.
Definitely. I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah, and in fact, we are already in discussions with Gartner, who's a massive company focused on workplace strategies. And so those kinds of partnerships are ones that we're really looking forward to exploring. And then the last question, I apologize, was...
No, that was it. It was.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. All right.
Okay, I think in the middle, and then we'll go to Chris, and then we'll come back to this side.
Okay. Do I understand it correctly that if a company is currently using, let's say, Slack, that your tool interfaces with Slack? And so by rough order of percentage magnitude, how much are you seeing the population of your channels coming from existing tools that employees are using versus going directly into the application, let's say, and populating it, asking questions?
Right, so people are actually going to our application to populate it immediately. They're not going through Slack. What they're saying is, I used to type all of this into a Slack chat, and that's not as efficient. Let me jump over here, and instead, let's just post that into OfficeAccord.
Okay.
And so this is a cultural change. We're not, we're not oblivious to that fact. This does take time. So Harvard getting to over 50% of their entire population, employee population, using this, that's taken almost a year and a half. So it is a change in the way people work, the way people utilize the tools, but management in mid to large size companies, they're really struggling with finding a solution to provide that social space for employees to connect that's not going to disrupt their business with non-business communication. And that's where we come in, and thankfully it's been kind of a sale that employees get. And another way I can kind of illustrate that, when you download an app that doesn't work very well, what do you do with it?
Trash it.
Yeah, the thing goes in the trash immediately, and I'm on to the next best thing. This tool, what we're seeing is that people are gravitating toward it naturally because it is more efficient to post a buy and sell item, an event, a ride share on a board like this, as opposed to sending a mass email to the 50 people they know and hope that they're going to read it and forward it to everyone else.
Okay, behind you.
I have a feeling that the happiness pitch that you started with is not quite aligned with the overall problem, which we had a speaker a couple weeks back talk about co-working spaces, the rise of everyone essentially working outside of the office. And if people are constantly having these different flexible schedules, only having cubicles in the office, coming and going, everybody's connecting to a company online. So if you're a company and everybody is everywhere else, how are they experiencing the company? What's keeping them there, and what's keeping them connected to their coworkers? And if it's nothing, it's so easy to just hop to another company. If you're still just switch the Slack channel and change to a different Zoom room. But so this is essentially kind of packaging everything together to have that community base that regular intranet systems don't tend to kind of connect with. And I feel like that might be a bigger pitch and bigger numbers, especially rising numbers for forward.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
All right, back over here. I need
This is way too
someone
far
to
into relay.
intervene, perhaps.
There you go.
All right, Bill. Next. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can still catch.
Could be still. There you go.
Testing, okay. Quick question. Looks pretty interesting, but how are you gonna take this to market? This is a marketing and sales question. And grasp, a big hunk of that 600 million you referred to earlier. This sounds like you're in beta test or something. When are you gonna get moving?
Right, good question. So we're hoping to get moving right now. So we just released the new version of this tool 5 weeks ago, and in that 5 weeks, we signed 2 new clients, and I'm hoping to sign 3 more in the next 2 weeks. This is an opportunity that
Big. How you gonna get
to get that, absolutely. So what we're going to be doing after we get to 10 clients, we're going to be looking for venture capital money, and that's going to help us scale. We're going to be hiring sales. We're going to be hiring.
Okay, once you get some money, how are you gonna do this?
Yeah.
How are you gonna go to market?
Yeah. So the go to
What's your
market
strategy?
Right. So the go to market strategy is to increase sales. It's to increase our sales employees and our market there.
Can you hear me? Hey, you say you build your platform on Microsoft?
Yes.
Anybody can build on Microsoft. I want, as an employee, as my company, I can go in there and through your platform and control everything. Can you do that?
No, so you can't.
Microsoft Code.
It's a Microsoft code that it's built off of. So the reason why I mention that is that we can integrate very easily into Microsoft 365.
Okay. Okay.
Or Microsoft Teams is what it is.
Okay, I'm talking in terms of, behind, like the algorithm and all that stuff. You're talking about employees, because I'm the owner of the company, and right now, and I have my employees right here. They have some building. You have this thing, this platform, and people are going as my employees. They're supposed to be doing what? You know what I'm saying? How can I see what the employees are doing, because spending most of the time, even though you've taken it out, because some of us want to see what my employees are doing, even though they're not on Facebook, but how can I go in and figure that out?
Yeah, we do have site analytics on this tool.
So that
as well.
means,
So
one question, privacy-wise, in terms of privacy-wise, in terms of we write service about our, as an employee, I write to say, how I think about this company, right? That means the HR can see who wrote that.
Well, they can see it if you send an email or if you post it in a Slack chat today anyway, so what's exactly the difference?
No, Slack chat, you can do it as a boss, you know what I'm saying? But what we figure out some of it is as an analytic, you can go in and see who sent that bad comment about, how this company runs and all that. Some of the employees, Slack chat can do that. You know what I'm saying? You can go in and see that.
Yeah, you can do the same thing here.
Okay, so the other thing, what I'm trying to understand is to increase your, you're collecting data, because as far as I know, Harvard, that's what they do. Hey, it's a good product, let's go to Microsoft, let's help you to get. That means you're collecting data from all of us right here, getting into this, and then building up your clientele. And then that's when you're going to exit up, you know what I'm saying? Or that's when you start doing whatever, crowdfunding and all that stuff. Is that true?
To an extent, yeah. We're not, this isn't a data gathering expedition. Sorry, I'm a bit confused about the question that you're asking. I apologize.
No, what I'm saying is fine. Supposed to start up, to build it up. You collect data. Show, hey,
sure,
people are entering this thing. You can tell. And then people can tell. Hey, there's a lot of people and all that stuff. As far as I know, Harvard is good on those research when it comes to IT wise, and then they can, hey, we're going to help you to get you to where it is and all that stuff. Because we've seen such things and all that. Is that what I'm trying to get? Saying until get to a certain level.
To get to a certain level of users and then be able to mine the data in which they've provided us. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So honestly, we're not in the business of trying to take a lot of the data from our companies, the clients with whom we work.
Because that's what Harvard does. That's what Harvard does. As far as we know, Harvard, that's what it does. Harvard and Stanford, that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they mine that data, and then that's when we say, hey, this is a good thing.
And maybe down the line, this will be an opportunity for them to say, hey, we're noticing that there's a big trend towards ride sharing. well, maybe we should try and create a solution for that. But until you have a platform to see what is the interest in ride shares, how would you know that? And that's what we're trying to help them solve as well.
Carol, right behind you, there's the gentleman with the glasses.
Hi. So this seems very Big Brother to me, and as someone who would be an employee at a company like this, she kind of mentioned that the bosses can look at all the metrics and figure out who's posting everything, and that can be good and bad. You mentioned a few things on anonymous responses to things. Is that really anonymous? Right? It sounds like it isn't, or it could be if you programmed it in, or could not be if you programmed it in.
Well, we do have an anonymous function, yeah, absolutely. So you can post anonymously. You could also post, and so if somebody wants to see your information, like I post the bike, but I don't want anyone to know who I am, and so if you want to see my bike, you have to request.
Okay, so
there
that
is an
brings the other
anonymous
thing about the
function.
internet is anonymity plus people equals jerks, right? And so I would be shocked if they're only spending 2 hours a month moderating these kind of things at Harvard, if that's the case, right? Because if you have anonymity,
Right.
the internet,
So
people
at
are-
Harvard, they don't have anonymity.
Okay, so that's how they protect that. So I guess that would be something that you would have a discussion.
Right, right. And you know what, the really interesting thing is there isn't so there are, items can be reported. So if you see something suspicious, you can report that, and then the site administrator then receives a notice to action. The interesting thing is that in our 2 years of this service being live, we've seen 2 reported posts. That really shows that because this tool is connected to your company profile,
It's transparent.
in the confines of your work environment, people tend to behave. And that's literally the proof that that's there. But great question.
Tessa? Hey, Ben, good job.
Thanks.
It's, good work on that. Looks like a great product and all that. Just maybe building off of what somebody mentioned earlier about starting out with that happiness sort of storyline. I think it would be pretty easy to put together just a last slide that says, even because you have access to the survey function, so you can do that pretty quickly, I imagine, build that really quickly to do some sort of survey and just land it right at the end and really bring the story home, right? Because you're going to be looking for VC money. I would definitely close that storyline off.
Thank you very much. I
Single
appreciate
slide,
that.
easy stuff.
Thank you. Great idea.
Great job. So one thing that may come up, and perhaps you've run into this already, is that as you move forward and work with larger corporations, they may ask, from a legal perspective, does this create any liability for the company to offer this sort of a marketplace?
Yeah, so employees can, the answer to your question, that definitely comes up. We do have a terms of use section that when an employee signs in for the first time, they have to accept that. And this is the terms of use that the company can modify with their legal team. So that is the way that we hedge that first and foremost. The second thing is we do have reporting mechanisms built into the tool so that really suspicious posts, if it was to be posted, can get action very quickly. So it would just be sitting up there for a long time and causing problems. But what the companies with whom we're speaking, they're progressive and minded enough to realize that employees can again do all this stuff with the tools at hand. They're doing this already on Slack. They're doing this in email. So this is nothing new. This is just trying to make that experience more effective and for their companies. But to answer that question.
Do we have time for one more question?
Hey, great job, Ben. That's a very good presentation. One thing that occurred to me is that a key to this, and something that we might be able to use in your marketing, is the fact that there are companies that are very security oriented. Either they have protected healthcare information or financial information. They do not like their employees going outside. And in fact, they thought, like sometimes they have a real strict firewall policy. So if they could do some of these things internally, it would help them a lot. Because then their employees, once you get outside that firewall, tend to stay for a while and look at this and that. So that could be a key, something that you use in your selling proposition.
Excellent. All right, with that, we appreciate it very much. Are you able to hang around?
I am,
Have
yeah.
other questions?
I'll be around.
Thanks, Ben.